Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and on this episode we're doing a top 10. The topic of the top 10? Top 10 ECW theme songs. Now we're talking about the original ECW, not the WWE reboot. We are going to preference that. I am not going to be playing clips of any of these songs, just so you know. I do not want to get copyright strikes. So with that being said, you can check out most of these songs. They're going to be on Spotify or right here on YouTube. I will give you the name of the band, the name of the song, and the wrestler it goes with. Let's jump right into it. Starting off hot at number 10, from the band Kiss, War Machine for Taz. And this was a War Machine instrumental. I believe he may have used it with words a few times, but he did mostly go with the instrumental version where it was just the music from the song. An absolute banger of a song, one of Kiss's best songs in my opinion. I like a lot of Kiss songs. I even like some of their without paint stuff, like Forever is one of my favorite ballads that they've done. One of my favorite ballads of all time of any band. I love War Machine. I love Love Gun. I mean, there's a lot of Kiss stuff. They're a legendary band. This absolutely felt with Taz, especially when they started sprinkling in the little quotes of his to Survive If I Let You, all that good stuff. It gave that feeling that somebody dangerous was coming to the ring, and it fit with Taz so well. Now going from that, our number 9, from The Prodigy, Breathe, for Al Snow. Al's run in ECW, at least this run, was not long, but it was super memorable. And one of the things that made it very memorable was that entrance. He came out with Head, and all the crowd had styrofoam heads that they would shake back and forth as he shook them, all set to a pulsating strobe lights and concert setting with Breathe by Prodigy, which was one of the biggest bands in the world at the time. They had just blown up. They had this and Firestarter and I believe Smack My Bitch Up were their 3 big hits off of this album. They really were starting in a somewhat newer style, at least in mainstream music. There was a little bit of electronic stuff coming into the mainstream, but at this point, this and I believe Chemical Brothers, Fatboy Slim, Moby, were really the artists that were bringing that underground dance music that had been going on since the late 80s and probably even longer than that into a mainstream environment where you would see the Prodigy's videos on MTV. You would see Chemical Brothers on MTV, Moby, Fatboy Slim, all those guys that I've mentioned. This is an absolute fantastic song. I absolutely love this song. It fit with the character. It felt right with the frenetic energy that he had. It felt right. It got the fans excited. It was such a different presentation and a different style of music. I wish wrestling now would take some of the cues from what ECW did and try and tie music that was current to the wrestlers. AEW licensed some music, but what they licensed for the most part is 30 plus years old. The Pixies is a 35-year-old song. Jefferson Airplane or Starship or whatever the song they're using for Orange Cassidy now is a 35-year-old song. Wild Thing, even the version they used was made in the 80s. I mean, Living Color, even for CM Punk, Living Color was made in the late 80s. I think 88 or 89 it came out. They need to update that. Some stuff that's happening now in music in 2022. Let me hear, and NXT did it with some of their themes. Let me hear some Poppy. Let me hear Olivia Rodrigo. Whatever it may be that's current, let's put that now. But I know I'm getting off on a tangent here, but it did definitely fit. You got a new character, a new kind of storytelling being told with a new style of music that was new to the mainstream. It just made Al Snow such a great character in ECW. Now our number 8, probably one of the biggest and most favorite sing-along songs in ECW, and that's Big Balls by AC/DC for Balls Mahoney. It's such a ludicrous song, and if you've heard it, it's basically, I've got big balls, she's got big balls, we've got big balls, and I'm probably going to get copyrighted for that. It all leads to the chorus of we've got the biggest balls of them all. It's a perfect channel-long song, especially for a guy like Balls Mahoney, who's just beloved. Everybody that watched ECW, everybody that was a fan of ECW loved the guy. it just was an interesting, it was such a fun thing to be a part of, and it just made his character and made this song work so well together. Our number 7, from The Offspring, Come Out and Play for Raven. Now, I don't think this was a perfect fit for Raven, but I can't see Raven coming out to any other song other than this. The character was a little bit more on the dark and foreboding side, and this has more of a pop punk feel to it. Obviously, I mean, it is the Offspring, one of the biggest pop punk bands in the history of the world. I would have liked to them see maybe if they were going to go with a punk song, maybe something for the Misfits, maybe, something Alice in Chains or even Pearl Jam. He was mentioned to have been a Pearl Jam roadie. It didn't 100% fit, but it is still a fantastic Ring song, and it's so identifiable with the Raven character that you can't separate the two now. I do love the song, don't get me wrong, and I love Raven. It wasn't a perfect fit, but it worked so well together that it had to make this list. Even over songs like Big Balls and War Machine that are more perfect fits, this added so much to the character that it makes a list just again and again. When he started using this, Offspring was a very new band. It was something that was just breaking out. The pop punk stuff with Green Day and Rancid and Offspring were just starting to bubble up and come into the mainstream. It was post the era of grunge. So this was an amazing song. Came out with Raven perfectly. It all to me fit together well. It was one of those things where the pieces shouldn't have fit, but they did. Now coming from that, our number 6. I know I talked about timely songs being used for characters, but sometimes you have to dip back into history. And even at the time, Deep Purple's Perfect Strangers for Shane Douglas was an absolute perfect song. And it had been at that time, I believe it was a 20-year-old song when he started using it. Not quite 20 years, maybe 15. But it was made in the 70s. He started using it in the mid-90s. It's a great song. If you've never heard Perfect Strangers, go check it out. It's one of Deep Purple's greatest hits. I know a lot of people know Deep Purple just for Smoke on the Water. But this is in my opinion, a much better song. And it fits so well with Shane Douglas. Just the words, do you remember my name? Talking about Shane Douglas, I mean, it fits so perfectly together. It added so much to the franchise character. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a fantastic song, and he's a fantastic wrestler. It was like a glove going over a hand. It was an awesome song for an awesome character. Now our number 5, staying with the classic rock, almost country, the Eagles with Desperado for Terry Funk. Again, I harped on using current music, but here we have another song from the 70s, but it absolutely fit. It's a song about an old cowboy retiring and going back to his ranch, which Terry Funk at the time was in his mid-50s. He was middle-aged and crazy. And it fits so bad. It fits so well because Terry Funk is the Desperado. He's the guy they're singing about. Not that they didn't make the song for him, but the song could have been made for Terry Funk. Everything that they talk about in the song fits his character. It's like the last old gunslinger out there still taking up for his cause when he's well past his prime, but he's still better than everybody else out there. It's such a fantastic song and such a fantastic wrestler. Terry Funk, in my opinion, one of the 2 best wrestlers of all time, him and Ric Flair, and I will argue that for the rest of my life. There's no better wrestler than those 2. They're either 1 and 1A. Either way you want to put it. You could put Flair at number 1, you could put Funk at number 1. I'm not going to argue with you. They're 2 of the greatest that's ever done it. Now, coming from that, our number 4. Coming from Pantera, Walk for Rob Van Dam. Another song that had that chant to it, that respect, walk. And I don't want to sing it. Again, I don't want to get copyright, but who knows. It was so perfect. It fit him so well, especially with the way he came in, with the way he really had the respect angle with Sabu. The music, it's such a great song. It's one of the great heavy metal songs of the 90s. Pantera, one of the great heavy metal bands of all time, with one of the greatest guitarists of all time. And this is just a fantastic song for a fantastic wrestler. It fits so well because Van Dam was going to make you respect him. And if you didn't, walk away, boy. It was just a fantastic song. I absolutely love it. Now, coming from that, our number 3. From Dr. Dre and Ice Cube, Natural Born Killers. And that's for New Jack, if you're not familiar. There's certain wrestlers that a song is so intrinsically tied to that you cannot imagine him, and part of it is they would play the song through the entirety of New Jack's matches, whether it be one go around or twice or 5 times. 5 times. But they would play it the entire time he wrestled over the PA. And it's such a fantastic song. It's one of the great rap songs of the 1990s, in my opinion. I absolutely love Dr. Dre and Ice Cube. I mean, everything they've done from NWA to their solo careers to this pairing, which they got back together after Dre and Ice Cube both left NWA. It fit with him because it's an inherently violent song, and it fits an inherently violent man. And it was such a great song, and the way they used it and how they played it as he was coming down to the ring and through his entire match, it just made for the perfect presentation for one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, one of my favorite characters ECW ever had. Rest in peace, New Jack, man. I absolutely loved you. This was a fantastic song. Now, coming from that, our number 2. From one of my all-time favorite bands, Alice in Chains, Man in the Box for Tommy Dreamer. I've said this to Tommy Dreamer myself. I cannot hear Man in the Box from a band I love, Alice in Chains, one of my favorites of all time. They're in my top 5. I cannot hear Man in the Box and not think of Tommy Dreamer. He is so tight, and it was such a perfect song for him. You know, just coming out, the torture, the angst of it, the way his character was portrayed, especially in his feud with Raven. This song felt so perfect for him and made the character, Tommy Dreamer, such a beloved character in ECW history. He is the heart and soul of ECW, the backbone, whatever you want to say about it. Tommy Dreamer means as much to ECW as any wrestler has meant to any other promotion in the history of wrestling. Just a fantastic song for a fantastic guy. Now, before we get into our number 1, we do a little thing here called the best of the rest, basically stuff that was thought of for the list but didn't quite make it. First up, Snap Your Fingers, Snap Your Neck by Prong for Just Incredible. Another fantastic song that fit him so well. Again, another newer song, another song that it wasn't even a popular song at the time, but in a metal community, in the heavy metal community, it was a popular song. Prong was a popular band there. And it fit with Justin and Justin's attitude and his demeanor, his swagger that he had to him. It fits so well with the song. Great song for another great underrated wrestler, in my opinion. That's why I thought about it, but it didn't quite make the list. Next up, Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys for Nova and Chris Chetty. This was another perfect fit because it's such a fun song for such a fun group, for a team that's nothing but excitement, nothing but fun for the fans. The quintessential baby faces. This got the fans in that area. It got them to where they were excited. You were up and you were dancing for a team that's going to make you happy. It fits so well. Nova and Chetty, I will argue this to the day I die, are probably 2 of the wrestlers that it hurt the most that ECW ended. I definitely think Nova by the end was being groomed to be a future world champion, and Chetty was probably a couple of years away from being that himself. Alas, their careers after weren't that great. Nova famously had the Simon Dean run, but he never quite lived up to his full potential. Although I do like him, don't get me wrong, that's not saying I don't like the guy. It's just I feel like if ECW kept going, they would have been guys that would have got even bigger and been even better with their career. Now, last but not least on the best of the rest, from the Edgar Winter Band, Frankenstein for 911. In the time of 911 and his run in ECW, nothing told the crowd that something spectacular is going to happen more than hearing those first opening strums of Frankenstein. As soon as you heard that guitar from Edgar Winter playing, you knew 911 was coming out, and he was coming out to chokeslam some fools, and that was it. There was not going to be anything else but a big guy chokeslamming fools. Usually when someone made a mistake or something was getting panned by the fans, whether it be Santa Claus, whether it be guys botching in the ring, whether it be Doink the Clown, Everybody got the 911 treatment, and it was fantastic. Now, before we get into our number one, if you think I left a song off the list, if you think I put one too high, too low, let me know what you think. Hit me up in the comments. Like and share, subscribe if you haven't. And going to our number one ECW song, ECW theme song from Metallica, Enter Sandman for the Sandman. You had to know this was going to be number one clicking on this video. If you know anything about ECW, there is one song that ties to one wrestler that encompasses everything. The Sandman, a lot will be said that the Sandman wasn't the greatest in-ring wrestler, that it was all about his entrance and them playing basically the entirety of a 5 or 6 minute song in Enter Sandman as he meandered his way through the crowd, drinking and smoking, smashing beer cans off his head, all while the crowd is singing along with him and joining in on the fun. He's carrying his Singapore cane. Sandman is he's such an anomaly because Sandman in any other company, and they tried it in WCW, they tried it in WWE, Sandman anywhere else but ECW does not work. If you take away Enter Sandman, it doesn't work. If you put him in a different company, in a different environment, he did have some decent runs in TNA, I will give TNA that, but anywhere other than ECW, Sandman's just a bit player. ECW, he's one of the people that you put on the ECW Mount Rushmore. He's a 5-time world champion, one of the main stars of the company, one of the embodiments of what ECW was, taking and accentuating the positives and ignoring the negatives. His entrance, I will put up there with every entrance in the history of wrestling. You could argue that The Undertaker's entrance is better. You could argue a few other people have just as good entrances. I would say that Sandman's got to be in that conversation for one of the top 2 or 3, if not the top entrances in the history of wrestling, in my opinion. And probably the only thing that The Undertaker has better is the production quality behind it. With all that being said, this is my view on the top 10 ECW theme songs. Again, let me know what you think down here in the comments. Like, share, all that good stuff. If you made it to the end, let me know in the comments your favorite ECW theme song. It doesn't have to be your top one. The top song on here isn't my favorite song. My favorite song on the list is probably Man in the Box or Natural Born Killers. But Enter Sandman means so much more to the character. So let me know what your favorite ECW theme song is. Put it down here in the comments. Maybe we could get a playlist going on Spotify or something. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been another Heel Heat Top 10.